Good afternoon. This is Michael
Good afternoon.
Clemens with II Spotlight. So, as part of II Research, we have started this podcast to speak to people in the market about different perspectives about the market. And today, we are fortunate to have Aaron Mollin with us today, who's the CEO of IPDefine. And he's going to talk to us a little bit about AI. So, I hope you agree with me that AI is a very small word. It's actually, well, acronym really, but it has an enormous potential. And I think today we want to discuss many different angles about it as far as what his firm is working on, but also how it relates back to investor relations departments with companies in Japan, et cetera, and maybe globally. So on that note, Aaron, why don't I hand it over to you to maybe introduce yourself better than I was able to do?
Thank you. Yeah, and sorry, clearly a misunderstanding on my part. I thought this was a podcast on ramen, so I'm a little bit underprepared.
Okay.
But I'll try to talk. AI is my second largest interest, so I'll do my
Okay.
best. Yeah,
We'll
thank you for
edit.
that. Thank you for the intro, Michael. Yeah, so my name is Aaron Mollin, and I am an ex-lawyer turned CEO of IPDefine, and we are a Tokyo headquartered alternative data provider that has developed the world's first AI that's capable of patent infringement discovery on a large scale, the largest scale. We've analyzed just about every active granted patent, and we now have a full database of infringement. And the goal for the company is to really unlock the full value of patents as an asset class. And we believe there's about $800 billion addressable market there. So that's what we do. And I look forward to diving in deeper with regard to how our technology can be applied in the IR space and many other areas.
So your background is quite varied, but to a degree, it's all led you to the AI space at the moment. Do you feel that Japan is the best place for you to be in this position, or where the firm is at the moment, or do you feel this is as good a place as any to launch and look at things from a global perspective? I mean, AI really. I think more and more, for example, investors are speaking to companies to understand how well their board is understanding AI, how well versed they are on the subject, how they understand the risk, how they understand, competitors, etc. But with regards to your company and the founding of this company, why Japan?
So Japan it's been my home for the past 20 some odd years. The founder of IPDefine is a Japanese fellow named Mitsuhiro Okamoto, who does not speak English. So the simplest reason for IPDefine's founding and establishment in Japan was for convenience. But it actually ended up working out quite well because, when it comes to AI, Japan is somewhat of a powerhouse in terms of the level of talent, the kind of software engineering talent and the AI expertise that exists here, and the relatively low cost at which those talents can be procured. And that was very much the case when the company was established 4 years ago. It's even more the case now, given the weakness of the yen and the fact that AI talents of maybe similar caliber in the US would have been 4 years ago maybe twice or three times the cost. Now they're probably closer to 5 or 6 times the cost because of the currency situation, the exchange rate. So yes, Japan is an incredible place to be developing AI. That's one of the main reasons. Another big reason is that you see these other countries, Europe particularly, that's kind of leading the push to regulate AI. The US is kind of following behind, and I think being a little bit more cautious, whereas Japan has taken this laissez-faire, just let's let it flourish approach, which we'll see how that pans out in the next 5 to 10 years. But what it means is we're able to develop AI really without any restrictions, without any boundaries, and that can lead to some really incredible advances. And we're seeing that right now. We're seeing a boom in AI in Japan. So I think, yes, it is an incredible place to be. And I'm very grateful to have been brought into this company and to experience all that for myself. And I think the third and final aspect, which does make it really appealing, Japan as a market, is for potential investors, people looking to invest in AI, because you can get so much bang for your buck, where you might have to invest twice as much into a US-based company to do the same amount of development, just because the cost is so high. You're just getting much more out of companies in Japan. So I think it's the uptick is slow, but we're seeing a little bit more interest from external VCs and investors into Japan, especially in AI.
Okay. Now, obviously, there's a broad way to be using AI, but in particular, how would you say that IP defines data contribution, if you will, or how does it rather contribute to the IR ecosystem vis-a-vis the data that you have or have been collecting?
So when it comes to IR, particularly in Japan, the topic of IP, of intellectual property, has been thrown around for quite some time, but I think really the biggest development was the recent revision to the corporate governance code, which was I think June 2021, which basically it contained provisions that stipulated that listed companies should be more transparent about their IP and their investments in IP, and to be very kind of calculated and specific about how they are disclosing that information. And then as an extension of that, boards of directors should really supervise these strategies and become more involved. Take a more active role in making sure that this push for increased transparency and more definitive strategies around IP are followed, are implemented. So we're also seeing additional kind of government. I've heard rumblings that there may be an incentive offered by the Japanese government that would lower the tax rate of income derived from patent licensing, for example. So there does seem to be just a general push within Japan for companies to just do more when it comes to IP. And sadly, if you look at the integrated reports from some of the big players who have massive patent portfolios, not much is being done. Not much has changed in the past 3 years. It's very much just the same. We've filed this many patents this year. Look how wonderful our patents are. And of course, it's all completely speculative. Just because you have a lot of patents, there doesn't mean that they are valuable, or if anything, it could mean that you are wasting money because you're developing all these patents, not monetizing them, and you're having to pay really crazy maintenance fees, and which are now compounded again by the fact that the exchange is so poor. Companies are having to pay almost 1.5 times what they usually would to maintain their patent portfolios. So there's a lot of money being wasted here. So there really is a need to really kind of visualize what's happening within the IP portfolios of Japanese listed companies. And that's where I think we can come in and help. And we're already engaged with a number of Japanese companies to provide them data to support their IR practices. And the main way we can do it is we can use our database. Like I said, we've already done the work. The AI has assessed all of these patents already. So we already know what's in the patent portfolios of Japanese listed companies. We know which of their patents are being infringed and by who. And that level of granularity may not be necessary. There may just be a need to say, okay, we've used IPDefine's data, and IPDefine has identified X number of patents that are being infringed by, let's say, 10 times as many products. So in IPDefine's database, they've identified 1,000 of our patents and 15,000 infringing products, which means that if we wanted to, we could fairly easily monetize our patent portfolio. Again, we may not be very active on the enforcement or monetization side, but our patents have value. So even that alone, even in saying we understand that there's a tremendous amount of infringement potential, that may be enough. Again, it's more than what people are doing already, and I think that will, lead to many different things. But I think at the very least, a sense of a feeling of ease from an investor standpoint in knowing that, okay, they're not just sitting on these portfolios, they're actually attempting to understand what's in there and what is of value. So again, they can maybe monetize in the future. Maybe they can do some parsing of their portfolios to get rid of the less valuable patents, and then file more that are more relevant to their current business operations. But we can provide that layer of data, and that can be used in integrated reports in IR focused materials.
And currently, do you feel that it is being used in integrated reports?
Our data specifically?
Well, more around, of course, they might mention how many patents they've filed, but are they mentioning the cost involved in maintaining them? It seems like it's almost like a gray zone as far as who might be infringing upon those patents.
Yeah, so I mean, the cost to maintain them, no, I don't really see that too often in the reports. It's mostly just limited to we filed this many patents this year, and we have this many patents that are active, in our portfolio. But I mean, again, that doesn't mean much at all.
True. And globally, Japanese companies tend to be one of the largest patent filers. Is that not correct?
That's right. Yeah, I believe Panasonic is the largest patent holder pound for pound on the planet.
Wow. So on the reverse, if Japanese companies are going overseas, they might also be accidentally infringing on patents as well, since it seems to be somewhat of a gray zone that's not being actioned or kind of brought to the forefront.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you get to the size of some of these companies, nobody really is going to be surprised by the fact that they're infringing. And our data isn't going to cause anyone to gasp, company X is infringing on company Y's patents. Where I think the real kind of aha moment will happen is when they see the scale of just how serious and how widespread the infringement potentially is. And it's infringement in Japan is unique for a number of reasons. Everybody infringes on everyone else's patents, and nobody really does anything about it. I mean, I think there was, I can't remember, it was somebody, I can't remember which one it was exactly, but there was a lawsuit in Japan that ended up being dropped. It was a patent infringement lawsuit between some Japanese companies. And, it didn't really make any sense from the start, because why would you even bother suing someone for patent infringement here? The damages amounts are so low. And you develop a bad reputation in the market if you sue someone. People just don't, they have an aversion to dispute here. So even if you're be aggrieved on a patent infringement dispute, people don't really want to hear about it. And it's just kind of understand that there's this handshake agreement, I think, between all of the industries, that you just won't really go after each other for patent infringement. And that allows everybody to work freely. But it also begs the question, why even have a patent system in the first place?
Right.
So, but the side effect of that is that when they do expand into the US market, they don't really change their strategies. All they do is just go ahead and operate and sell their products as they would in Japan. But by doing that, they also end up infringing the similar and also additional patents in the US, and then are potentially liable for some serious damages amounts. In the US, unlike Japan, the patent system is very robust, and it's built for pretty sizable rewards. So if one of these companies were to be sued, perhaps they could be on the hook for billions of dollars in damages. So there is a lot of infringement that's happening, and I think nobody really understands. I mean, we do the scale of how big this is, but there needs to be, and this also does touch on that IR point, is investors need to feel comfortable knowing that these companies are doing the proper amount of due diligence to ensure that they're not stepping on anyone's toes, that they're not infringing patents when they go into the, they step into the US market, or they continue operating in the US market. And we're able to uncover that and help them provide that data. So I think that would be really relevant and helpful for companies to provide in their reports and their investor materials as well.
Because I think, as AI becomes more and more prevalent, I don't think it's going to be a fad, and it's just going to get more powerful. But at the same time, it's really exciting, because not everyone per se. Well, of course, you're an expert, but I think people could become experts relatively easier in this kind of young area, and you can see, you know better than everybody how widely spread the technology and focus can go. And so when investors are looking at companies, I think one of their questions, of course, would be at the company, who's ultimately responsible for AI. And furthermore, when it comes to board oversight, for example, who really has AI experience with regards to the oversight on the board? Because I think at the same time, naturally, that questions their expertise. And it also dovetails over to ESG, vis-a-vis the governance aspect of it. So how do you feel your company and the data can be used to help companies vis-a-vis their ESG endeavors?
So that, I mean, the most straightforward answer to that question is, I think it's good corporate governance in general not to break the law. And if you are breaking the law and potentially liable to the tune of billions of dollars, and there are tools out there that can help you get out of situations like that, you should absolutely consider using them. And I think, again, when we come into play, and it kind of touches on the last question and answer, but we can identify infringement risk, and it's a delicate topic, because you don't want to let someone know in any specific detail that they're infringing a patent, because as soon as they become aware of that infringement, and they don't immediately, let's say, seize the sale of that product or technology, they could be on the hook for some serious damages in the US. So there are ways to get around this. We could provide the data to a law firm, who could then advise the client based on the data that we provide. But there are ways to do it, and it absolutely needs to be done, because what was once just a general understanding and an inkling in everybody's minds that there was probably a lot of infringement going on has now been visualized. And we're the first ones to do it, but we're probably not going to be the last. And we are somewhat closed about how we disseminate this data. We're not providing it on a subscription basis, so it's not just going to be available tomorrow for everyone to see and know which companies are infringing which patents. But again, somebody may in the future try to develop something similar to what we're doing and try to release it in a more broad way, and that would put a lot of companies at risk. So I think there is a really significant need for, from a corporate governance standpoint, to get on top of potential patent infringement, to ensure that you are not currently and will not in the future be breaking the law via infringement of patent rights. And again, that's an area that we feel very, very competent in helping, and an area that we are, again, very active in, especially in Japan.
And when we look at the different AI offerings, and it's not strictly related to IR departments, but what is your ideal client? Is it coming to you from a consulting perspective, or is it maybe somebody who's an activist investor who's curious to know these things, or is it somebody who's looking to maybe hedge or take advantage of situations this way? What is the ideal client for your company going forward?
Hard to just name one, because the use cases are so broad, and really the AI that we've developed has been developed to be as multifaceted as possible and to be used in as many different industries as possible. But we've touched on the IR and ESG side, which is more, I think, defensive, preventative, medicine. And then on the flip side, there is the monetization and enforcement angle, wherein we can help companies with large patent portfolios identify infringement, and we can rank that infringement so that they know exactly where they need to be looking, because there may be, within a portfolio of 1,000 patents, 10, 20, 30,000 results in our database. So we can help them narrow down the ones that are most potent, and then they can, use our data for monetization, for licensing, litigation. And then there are also non-practicing entities, the types of companies that don't actually have any products or technologies, but have large patent portfolios or are always looking to acquire patents for monetization purposes. And for them, we don't have to start just with the patents they own. We can start by identifying an infringing company and helping them find patents that they can acquire and immediately turn around to enforce against that company. So there's a really opportunistic use case for our data as well. So that's another, I guess, a really serious and significant side of our client, just kind of overall composition. But outside of that, there's the private equity and venture capital angle. In terms of using our data for due diligence, very, very little is done in terms of diligencing patent portfolios of companies, and there's potentially hundreds of millions of dollars being left on the table by not properly assessing the infringement potential of the portfolio of company that you're looking to acquire or invest in. Conversely, they're not really looking at the risk of infringement by that company as well. So if you're looking to invest in a company that's infringing and you don't know about it, again, you could be sitting on, vis-a-vis the investment, a whole lot of risk that won't end up the way that you hope. So all of these different areas, providing our data for hedge funds so they can better understand, and activist funds, whether there's hidden value in companies or whether companies that they're looking to short may have, infringement risk. So it's very wide, and we haven't even touched on the different areas that this could be used in finance, like patent-backed securities, just a patent-backed lending, all of that. So it's very broad, and I think that is what makes us. I think part of the question kind of originated around the different types of AI. And I think that's what makes us different within the space, is that there are a lot of IP-centric AI tools out there, and the majority of them really are tools. But they're really just kind of focused very much in the world of patents, and they're not looking to take patents out of that world and into the different worlds of, let's say, finance, which is very much where we are focused. So in our, for our data, you don't even need to be a patent owner to make the most out of it, and that's what I think makes it so interesting.
And also, as Japan moves forward, the market's at all-time highs. M&A is increasing. In the past, we talked about on other podcasts how culturally there were no hostile takeovers, and there's now kind of like a guide on how to make offers, etc. But when it comes to M&A, there's also clearly insurance brokers that try to ensure anything that wasn't found in due diligence or might want to help people vis-a-vis, coming across a company or acquiring a company and finding that there are situations like this. So even in the insurance world, even the M&A world, it seems like this would be very powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've had quite a few conversations from insurance companies as well, looking to utilize our data to better understand risk.
So in an empowering way, if I look back on how the internet was going to be a panacea of so many different things one could do going into the future, and at the same time, and maybe a somewhat disempowering way of looking at it, AI, when I hear that, I also hear the word liability in the back of my head. And I think my concerns are, these are my personal concerns, but it's same as when I was in banking and we had algorithms that were doing the trading, and the question around how much quality assurance have we done on these algorithms that are in charge of very large volume and large amounts of money. I think same is my question around AI. Are people going to get to the point where they're not questioning it and they're not doing the quality assurance on the technology behind it? Or what is your feeling when I say liability is a big question mark that comes up with regards to AI?
Yeah, I feel it firsthand, in the day-to-day conversations I have with both clients and non-clients alike. It's, the biggest concern I have is that everybody is looking at AI as a threat. And by doing that, they're assuming that AI is going to take over every bit of work that humans are engaged in. And because they think that way, the assumption that they're making is AI, whatever AI puts out is going to be able to replace what a human does. And it's clear that AI is not at that level and may never be at that level, maybe for certain things, but let's be honest, a human will need to get involved at some point down the line. And we can't just trust the output of AI. And that's very much what we tell everyone when we're providing them with this data. It's that we don't expect anyone to take the data that we provide and try to, initiate a patent lawsuit, a patent infringement lawsuit. What we tell them is they need to provide this to a law firm of their choice, and that law firm has to look through the results and advise them accordingly. And that is the right use case. Yet, despite this, we're constantly met with people, and I think part of this is fear, who are just looking to disprove the AI's accuracy. And if you're looking to disprove the accuracy of AI, well, you're in luck because you're almost always going to be right if you try hard enough.
Right.
But you're also fundamentally incorrect in the way that you are looking at AI. AI is not about accuracy; it's about scale. It is just about the massive amount of data that it's able to parse through and generate more relevant, more applicable data and results. And I think a lot of people just still don't seem to understand this. It's clear that there's a massive amount of education that's still needed. But I think the other side of that is we're seeing the dissemination of all these different AI tools on a large scale. And I think that is also contributing to this misunderstanding that AI is here to replace, an element of what we're doing. And I sometimes wish that there would be more reluctance. Everybody's looking to be the leader in AI, and I think just in trying to do that, they're just widely disseminating it to everybody they can to get the most, market, to make the most impact, to generate a buzz. But I feel like in doing that, it just ends up contributing more to the skepticism around AI and this fear that that everybody kind of thinks that these AI models are going to displace humans or human behavior. And I think if people were just a little bit more calculated about how they were disseminating their AI, and spend a little bit more on the education side, that maybe we wouldn't have to worry about it this much. And I was thinking about it the other day, and it's like I think the best way to summarize it is if you can ask someone what the benefit is of, let's say, providing their technology, providing their AI to everyone in the world, let's say at a very low subscription cost. And the answer that they provide you sounds more like a risk than a benefit, then it probably means that they shouldn't be doing it in that broader sense. And maybe they should just be limiting it. Like for us, if you asked us what the benefit is, well, the benefit is everybody will know who's infringing on everyone's patents tomorrow. Well, is that really a benefit? No, it's not really a benefit if you think about it, because if everybody had that data tomorrow, everybody would know which patents they're infringing, which would make them liable for extreme amounts of damages. The patent system could be overwhelmed with litigation. There are a lot of detractors here. So we have consciously kept our data very close to home, and we're really disseminating it to a limited number of players who can make the most out of that data. It's the exclusive use of this data and this AI that makes it so powerful. And I think it's also the responsible way to do it, because it doesn't contribute to the, again, more confusion in the ether about AI and its use.
When we look at technology just in general, I think, over the years, no matter how far you go back, people have always been in fear of technology advancements and what that means for them. I think just looking at a simple case of going from 3G to 4G to 5G to 6G, in my opinion, actually creates more opportunities for people if they look at it in a more empowering way. And do you feel that AI is going to actually create more jobs for people, uh, despite the impression that it's going to be replacing people?
That's a harder one. I would say, because I feel like there will be jobs lost, but there will also be jobs created. I wonder if it's almost kind of like net zero that will hit because, and yeah, I'm only speaking from the perspective of someone who's, leading a company that does AI that's very related to patents and the legal world and finance. So for us, what our AI is developing is massive amounts of data on patent infringement. So it's mining patent portfolios. It's mining all of the patent data in the world. And traditionally, this would have been done by research teams, and they would have done it in a very limited way. So we may be taking some of that business away from them. Again, I cannot say that the veracity of the data that we're generating is better than them, but I know that we're able to do it at a scale that is infinitely larger and we can do it within seconds. So, the speed and scale that we can offer is definitely world beating. But when it comes to, the overall precision, maybe those people who were once involved in just trying to identify infringement will now be on the side of, okay, now that we don't need to do that anymore, there are massive amounts of infringement data. We need to parse through these results and see which ones are actionable. So I think it's kind of like there'll be an upskilling. Some jobs may be lost, some may be upskilled, and then maybe some will be created anew to accommodate all of this new data. And when you think about lawyers, again, maybe junior associates who are working on litigation cases may not be as relevant as the experts who have decades of trial experience and can look at our data and help develop claim charts or whatever they need to do to get this data to the level that it is ready to be litigated. But I think it's just there's going to be a lot of shifting. Some jobs will be lost, some jobs will be gained, and in the end, things will probably kind of just even out, if I had to guess, and that's in our space at least.
Yeah, because I think when we go back to the internet, for example, being this panacea, it was also supposed to be helping us kind of as humanity go to that next level where if we're able to automate things and use technology and embrace it, then it would free us up to read more books or write more poetry or enjoy more of our free time. And I think on the one hand, that's very empowering to look at it that way. At the same time, I also think it's good to keep people on their toes because I feel even in my own example of using my car Navi, which is hardly AI, but I tend to believe whatever it tells me, and if I make the wrong turn, I end up getting a ticket. Too bad, I'm still getting the ticket. So I think people who are going to be relying on it too much to write, their write their essays or write their script or whatever the case may be. More importantly, it's an opportunity for people to increase their skills and keep up with the advancements. And on that note, I think what's interesting to me is how sometimes policy is not going to be able to keep up with advancements, especially if we look at it vis-a-vis the government or even use cases for the government. How do you feel the government could be implementing at least the work that you're doing or the technology better in this space?
Ooh, that's a tougher question.
I
I
mean, what
mean,
comes to mind for me is, for example, the ward office in Japan. Very
yeah,
simplistic, very complicated, very bureaucratic. But yet, if you cut to the chase by having an AI model lay over all of the rules and regulations there, you could probably get an answer a lot faster. And that's probably not the best example to use. But
I see. Oh, so you're talking about AI more broadly. Yeah, I mean, I was thinking just in the context of what we do, and I mean, just on that note, we also do patent validity analysis, and basically that's supposed to be the job of a patent examiner. When you prosecute a patent, when you file a patent, an examiner is assigned to that patent, and they're supposed to be looking at prior patents that have been filed and literature covering similar technologies to make sure that the patent that you're looking to get granted hasn't been granted in the past, or it doesn't cover technology that already exists, because then it's not novel, then it lacks patentability. But unfortunately, because they're human and because they're not using good tools, so maybe it wouldn't take us, but a good AI tool to help them identify prior art patents. What happens is that a lot of examiners will grant patents when they shouldn't be granting patents, which means that they're basically granting patents that are dead on arrival. So you have a patent that's been granted, but it's actually lacking validity. And so if you ever try to use that patent, let's say in litigation, then the counterparty, the defendant, could attempt to have that invalidated, and they very well may succeed if they have the funds to go through with the process that it takes to do that. So I think by implementing AI in the patent system, there could be a very easy analysis. And again, we can do this within seconds of potential prior arts that might exist. And it's not, again, it's not perfection, but it would probably reduce the amount of time that these examiners are having to do with manual search, reduce it by 90% so that they can have more time to focus on the nuanced portions as opposed to just looking for existing literature in the first place. So we can kind of point them in the right direction, and they can do a really quick analysis and say, oh, actually, yeah, there's something that's been granted before this patent exists. So we can't, you're going to have to change your patent to make it so that we can re-examine it. So that's a clear use case. But oh my God, Japan, like it's ripe for just to be completely flipped on its head. It really is ripe for some change. And I would love to see it as someone who lives here and deals with the various inconveniences of Japan inefficiency, as crazy as that sounds. But banking, of course, tremendously inefficient, it seems. Also, despite all of their practices to be more secure, doesn't seem very secure here at all. You always hear these stories of security breaches. So maybe getting AI to help with that too. Just tons of use cases, I think.
I think the other thing that is also maybe a little concerning is people who are making the decisions and making the policy, if you will, and not going back to maybe the employees that are actually running companies and actually doing a lot of the day-to-day operations, et cetera, and getting their feedback on a more regular basis. And I think that, then they risk actually making obviously the wrong decisions. Because I mean, you alluded to before, if people are looking to find holes in it, then they're going to find it. And I think anybody who's looking for fault in anything is going to find it. But what's most important is when people are actually engaged on making it happen and making it work, so that whether it be a hotel business or whether it be a restaurant or whether it be the ward office here, if everybody's engaged on actually utilizing this as a tool to make things better, then it will tend to flourish.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, and again, we see this firsthand. We're speaking with employees of large companies here. We're telling them about what we do, and their immediate response is, "We don't believe you can do what we do, and we're going to try to prove you wrong." And that's basically become their job right now. It's all they try to do is discredit AI. Partially, again, I think it's because they're fearful for their own jobs. I think part of it is just a genuine lack of understanding. But the main reason is probably just lack of structure and of leadership. And if it came down tomorrow from the top leadership of these companies that your new job is to embrace AI and utilize it in your day-to-day activities, then I think that would change completely. But right now they're getting none of that. So they just default to, well, we've been doing this for, 2,000 years. So why do we have to change now? And look, let's see what you put out. And aha, we realized that one letter is off. So we were right the whole time. And it's like, that is so inefficient. It's in a world, in a society that's already ripe with inefficiency, especially within these large corporations. They really need clarity of leadership, and it has to come from the government, it has to come from the board, it has to come from the executive team. But that has to change, because without it, people are just going to default to why, the why, and we don't believe you kind of mindset.
And even that in and of itself seems to be a case for AI, taking all that feedback that people are giving and then analyzing whether or not it's valid enough, and then taking that and consulting with the board to say, look, we've already taken all of your feedback, whether it's empowering or disempowering or positive or negative, and this is essentially the output. So based on this, you have maybe a little bit better knowledge to go on when you're making your decisions. Because I think, the question, the bigger question besides board oversight is board education. And how do they get this expertise if they don't have it? Do they seek it outside? Do they seek it from companies like your good selves? Is there certification that they can be getting, or is there ways that your company could provide this and different processes or information that they have? And I think for those who are engaged and want to use this to empower themselves, what do you think is the way forward?
Well, I think that, look, there are tons of resources out there that you can, I think everybody needs to be brushing up on their knowledge. I mean, we work, or I know very closely someone who runs a company called Blue Fox Labs, and they basically do consulting for exactly that reason, for boards, for executive teams. I think they're more focused on PE as well, but they're really just helping companies with their use and understanding of AI, machine learning, statistical modeling. So it's kind of like consulting, but they put out a lot of educational pieces that are free for anyone to use. And I think in the end, it's making use of the resources that are out there, and everybody just tends to default to, yeah, we understand AI, and as more things develop and more news comes out, they just pick up little tidbits and think that they are up to speed. But really, it needs to be a more thoughtful approach to education, especially education within the specific industry that you are operating in.
And what would you say is the strategy for your company going forward? Are you looking to become more global? Are you looking for specific partners in the space that you're at? Are you what is the future of your company?
So we are remaining opportunistic. I mean, we're based in Japan, but the majority of our clients are overseas, and we anticipate that continuing. And the reason for that is because we partnered with some really good law firms, namely our main law firm partner, which is called CMS in Europe, in the UK. And we've developed a really incredible partnership with them wherein we can identify infringement of their clients' patents. And they can then, again, talking about how AI should properly be used, they take all of those results that we've ranked. They then have their teams dive into them to do a deeper analysis. Then, when they feel confident in the veracity of the data based on the additional work that they've done, they bring it to their clients and let the clients know that they have found some infringement that's potentially monetizable. So it's this beautiful 360-degree solution where the client just has to say, oh, that sounds great. Yes, I would like to make money. And we can move forward with that. So that has been far and beyond the most effective use of and in terms of kind of like an ecosystem. So keeping on building those partnerships with law firms in the US and in other parts of the world as well. But further than that, we want to keep moving outside of just the realm of patents and traditional patent monetization. We want to be working more with hedge funds, with private equity firms, with all of these companies that operate in industries that could very much be benefiting from a layer of visualization around patents, but just don't, because it's never been done before, and because to do even a small or limited version of what we're doing traditionally would have been way too expensive and too time consuming. So seeing how we can provide our data, all these different use cases, insurance as well, just to really help people appreciate this alternative data that we're providing. And we call it alternative data because it really is. It's applicable in so many different ways. So we remain opportunistic and are just happy to have conversations with anyone who finds this even mildly interesting, because I know the topic can put people to sleep.
Well, I think you made it interesting. And we've been talking about this for a while. So I'm glad that we had time to talk with you today. And maybe next time we'll talk about ramen.
All right. I look forward to it.
Is there anything more that you'd like to bring up, or anything else you'd like to mention in closing?
No, I mean, really, just thank you for giving us a platform to talk about IPDefine and what we're doing. We're based in Japan. I didn't really mention Japan much in terms of our future goals, but we actually very much like being here. We see a tremendous amount of potential in Japan. and would love to keep on growing here. And just know that we won't be giving up on the Japan market. We're very much we're going to double down on Japan in the years ahead, and hope to have many Japan specific conversations like this going forward. So just thanks again.
You're very welcome. So thank you again, and hopefully talk to you very soon. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Michael.